You've been lying in bed for 2 hours, eyes shut, doing everything right, and your brain is wider awake than it was at noon. That desperate inner command, sleep, sleep, just sleep already, is the very thing keeping you conscious. The same mechanism sabotages every goal you white-knuckle toward, from calming your nerves before a presentation to willing yourself into confidence you don't feel. And once you understand why effort backfires this way, you'll recognize it operating in dozens of places you never suspected. In the late 1980s, a psychologist named Daniel Wegner ran a beautifully simple experiment. He told participants, one thing, do not think about a white bear. That's it. Just suppress that single thought for 5 minutes. The result was almost comical. Participants couldn't stop thinking about white bears. The thought returned, on average, more than once per minute. But the real finding came afterward. When the suppression period ended, and participants were told they could think about whatever they wanted, the white bear thoughts actually increased beyond baseline levels. The act of suppression had created a rebound, a mental spring compressed so tight it launched the thought higher than if they'd never tried to push it down at all. Wegner called this ironic process theory. The mind, when tasked with avoiding something, splits into 2 operations running simultaneously. One part actively searches for replacement thoughts, distractions, alternatives, anything other than the target. The other part monitors whether the suppression is working, and that monitor has a cruel design flaw. To check whether you're thinking about a white bear, it has to represent the concept of a white bear. So the very system designed to keep the thought away keeps refreshing it, like a security guard who has to stare at the intruder to confirm the intruder is gone. Now apply that architecture to sleep. You're lying there telling yourself to fall asleep. Your monitoring system activates. Am I asleep yet? That question requires wakefulness to ask. Every check pulls you further from the state you're chasing. Your body tenses slightly with each failed assessment. Your heart rate, which needs to drop for sleep onset, holds steady or climbs. The bedroom becomes an arena where you're fighting yourself, and both sides are using the same brain. Sleep researchers at the University of Glasgow tested this directly. They took a group of insomniacs and gave half of them a counterintuitive instruction. Try to stay awake. Lie in bed with your eyes open and resist sleep. The other half got standard advice about relaxing and letting sleep come. The group told to stay awake fell asleep faster, significantly faster. By removing the intention to sleep, they removed the monitor. The guard left the building, and the intruder, sleep, walked right in. This principle extends far beyond your bedroom. Think about the last time someone told you to relax. Maybe a dentist, maybe a friend before a job interview. The instruction to relax activates the same paradox. Your mind begins monitoring your tension levels, which requires maintaining the very vigilance that tension feeds on. You scan your shoulders, still tight. You notice your jaw, still clenched. Each scan is a tiny pulse of effort, and effort is the opposite of relaxation. The monitoring becomes the disease. Athletes call it the yips. A golfer who's sunk 10,000 putts suddenly can't make one from 3 feet. A baseball pitcher with a decade of experience starts throwing wild. The skill hasn't disappeared, it's been buried under a layer of conscious monitoring that interferes with the automatic process. The body knows how to do the thing. The mind, by trying to supervise, jams the signal. Performance psychologists have measured this. When skilled athletes are asked to focus on the mechanics of their movement, their accuracy drops to the level of beginners. Years of training, neutralized by attention. So, what does any of this have to do with manifesting? More than you'd expect. The popular version of manifestation says, want something intensely, visualize it clearly, believe it's coming, focus your energy on the outcome. The problem is that intense wanting activates the same ironic monitor. When you fixate on a goal, say financial abundance, your brain begins tracking the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Every visualization session ends with you opening your eyes to the same bank balance. The monitor dutifully reports, still not there. That report generates a feeling, and the feeling is lack. This is where the psychology gets interesting. Gabriele Oettingen, a researcher at New York University, spent over 20 years studying how mental contrasting affects goal pursuit. Her findings directly challenged the pure positive visualization model. Participants who only fantasized about achieving their goals, who sat in the warm glow of imagined success, consistently performed worse than those who didn't visualize at all. The fantasy provided a taste of the emotional reward without any of the action, like eating the dessert and skipping the meal that actually sustains you. Ertington's method, which she calls WOOP, wish, outcome, obstacle, plan, works precisely because it includes the obstacle. You imagine the goal, then immediately confront what stands in the way. The mental contrast between desired future and present reality generates a specific kind of tension, and that tension, unlike the paralysis of pure wanting, actually mobilizes effort. The brain treats the obstacle as a problem to solve rather than a gap to agonize over. The difference is structural. Pure wanting asks the mind to hold two contradictory beliefs. I want this, and I don't have it. Ironic process theory predicts exactly what happens next. The monitor scans for evidence of progress, finds none, and amplifies the awareness of absence. You feel the wanting more intensely, which feels like you're doing something, but the emotional signature is identical to anxiety. Your body can't distinguish between passionate desire and low-grade panic. Both produce vigilance, shallow breathing, and a narrowed focus that filters out opportunities sitting right at the edge of your peripheral vision. Meanwhile, the person who's loosely interested in a goal, who wants it but isn't gripping it with both fists, moves through the world with a wider attentional field. They notice the email they might have skimmed. They say yes to the invitation they might have declined. They're available to luck in a way the white-knuckle wanter simply cannot be, because the wanter's monitor is consuming bandwidth that would otherwise be open. There's a term in Eastern philosophy for this, wu wei. Often translated as effortless action, it describes a state of doing without forcing. The river doesn't try to flow downhill. Your lungs don't try to breathe while you sleep. The systems work because nothing is supervising them. Wegner's research gave this ancient observation a mechanical explanation. Effort introduces a monitor. The monitor introduces interference. The interference produces the opposite of the intended result. Consider how you've experienced this without having a name for it. You're trying to remember a word. It's right there, on the tip of your tongue. You squeeze harder. Nothing. You give up, start making dinner, and the word surfaces while you're chopping onions. Your memory retrieval system works best when the monitor isn't standing over it with a clipboard. The same pattern shows up in creativity research. People generate more original ideas when given loose, playful constraints than when told to produce something brilliant. The instruction "be creative" is almost guaranteed to make someone less creative, because now they're monitoring every idea against an internal standard of brilliance. The ideas that would have emerged naturally get intercepted and judged before they're fully formed. The censor arrives before the creator finishes speaking. So what actually works? The Glasgow insomnia study points toward an answer, and it generalizes beyond sleep. The intervention is paradoxical intention, deliberately pursuing the opposite of what you want. Try to stay awake, try to be anxious, try to fail. The instruction short-circuits the monitor because there's nothing to check for. You can't monitor whether you're failing to stay awake. The concept collapses in on itself. The guard gets confused, leaves his post, and the natural process reasserts itself. For goal pursuit, the practical translation looks like this. Hold the goal lightly. Define what you want with clarity. Confront the obstacles honestly. Build systems that move you in the right direction, then release the moment-to-moment monitoring. Check in weekly, maybe monthly. The daily obsessive scan, am I closer yet? Am I closer yet? Is the white bear experiment running on a loop inside your ambition. The cruelest part of ironic process theory is that the people who care most are punished most. The insomniac who desperately needs sleep. The athlete whose career depends on the next putt. The person who's poured their identity into a goal they haven't reached yet. The intensity of their need is precisely what powers the monitor that blocks the result. Caring becomes the obstacle, which feels like a trap with no exit. But the exit exists, it just looks like the wrong door. You walk toward the thing you're avoiding. You stop checking. You let the word come to you while you chop onions. You tell yourself to stay awake, and your eyelids get heavy within minutes. The paradox resolves the moment you stop treating your own mind as something to be managed and start treating it as something that works best when you step out of its way. Tonight, when you lie down, try something. Instead of commanding yourself to sleep, see how long you can keep your eyes open in the dark. Notice the heaviness. Let it build. Every part of your body already knows how to do this. It's been doing it since the day you were born. The only thing that ever stood between you and sleep was the version of you that kept asking whether it was happening yet.